Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 5th online event, 10 by 10, Cuban Contemporary Dance Here and Now, celebrating our 10-year anniversary, Copperbridge's 10-year anniversary. And I'd like to thank at this moment our collaborators, AIA Miami, Art Daily on Cuba, MCADS, Miami Architecture and Design. And today, especially, the City of North Miami for joining us in sponsoring our program, our 10 by 10 program. As you know, Copperbridge Foundation is celebrating our 10 years, and we are very proud to promote our cultural exchanges and create dialogue through the arts. With that said, tonight, we're very proud to continue with our 10 by 10 celebration of Copperbridge's 10 years with this wonderful panel on dance. Our collaborators this evening, also very important for me because they're, again, I consider all of them family, is the Joyce Theater, Miami Light Project, FUNDarte, and they're with us here tonight, along with Miami-Dade College and Hedwig Dances. So again, thank you for joining us, and I'm really excited to share this with you tonight. With that said, as I mentioned earlier, our collaborators, tonight we have also the Swiss Embassy of Cuba that unfortunately will not be with us tonight. They will join us tomorrow. And I want to say a quick hello to Lorenzo Suarez, who's been so cooperative and helpful with this 10 by 10 series. And so a hello to Lorenzo, and thank you to the Swiss Embassy of Cuba and Jamaica. Now tonight, with our 10 by 10 dance series, I'm very proud to present another collaborator that we worked with here in Miami many years, one FUNDarte, and of course, Miami Light Project. And with us tonight is Beth Boone. Beth is the executive director and artist director of the Miami Light Project. Beth, since 1989, in her role as artistic and executive director of the Miami Light Project, Beth has distinguished herself as a leader in Miami's cultural community. She has developed critically acclaimed artistic programs that have asserted the organization as one of the leading cultural institutions in South Florida, and which has brought her national recognition for her work in that field. Beth has also worked and is no stranger to Cuban cultural exchanges, and we're very fortunate to have been able to work with her, in this case, bringing many of the dance companies from Cuba here, and we've shared the stage with actually one of the performance companies here at Malpaso. So I'd like to now take the time to welcome Beth Boone. Welcome, Beth.
Thank you, Gio. Hi, everyone. It's nice to see lots of the names popping up here. There's so many, I have to scroll 4 pages to see it. But anyway, welcome and thank you for inviting me. Thank you to the Copperbridge Foundation. Normally, I like to speak extemporaneously, but I have discovered that you can get like stage fright on Zoom anyway. Like my heart always beats fast before I'm talking to lots of people that I can't see out there. So I wrote my notes down and I'm going to read them, but I'll try not to sound rote. So Gio asked me to speak to the importance of collaboration and of partnership. And I consider collaboration to be a founding principle of Miami Light Project. So I was really delighted to speak to this subject. And I'm joined tonight by my very, very, very dear friend, Ever Chavez, who is the founding director of FUNDarte. And we have been collaborators for a long time. For a variety of reasons, he likes me to be his spokesperson, so I'm going to be speaking in the royal we, talking about FUNDarte and Miami Light Project. So anyway, Miami Light Project and FUNDarte and Copperbridge Foundation are like-minded community-based organizations, and our work is elevated when we collaborate to achieve our common goals. I always like to refer to the phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats, and I mean that. So my personal journey with Cuba began, I was figuring this out, it was 20 years ago next month. That's when I met Fernando Saez, who's on this call as well. And when I began a very deep relationship with artists on the island. On that particular trip, I was joined by many of the colleagues that I share here in the United States who represent major cultural institutions. And we had an extraordinary experience going from Havana to Santa Clara, to Escambray, to Cienfuegos, Trinidad. And in a 10-day period, we saw something like 68 companies. It was like 6 to 8 per day. It was a lot of immersion and it made a lasting impact on my life. Some of the groups that we saw were Los Faquires, Grupo Vocal de Sandan, who are now known as the Creole Choir of Cuba, and DanzAbierta, now MiCompañía. So these are relationships that started 20 years ago and continue stronger than ever today, which is a very meaningful thing. I was remembering today one of the first performances that I saw, which was Coro Perpetuo. And it just ripped my heart out and took my breath away. And I've remembered that performance so vividly for 20 years. So our relationship with Cuba continued on because we founded in 2008, FUNDarte and Miami Light Project founded a festival called Global Cuba Fest, which in the beginning was very much a celebration of Cuban music from around the world. But over the years, it became a multi-disciplinary approach to presenting and celebrating Cuban artists on stages here in Miami, large and small stages. And we have, I know you don't want to talk, but how many artists could we, it's probably at this point over 25 musical groups, probably hundreds of artists that we've presented from Cuba. And that's been a pleasure as well. So in 2010, we opened a space called the Lightbox in a neighborhood here called Wynwood, which is a cool arts neighborhood. And when we opened the space, it was actually Los Muñequitos de Matanzas who did the opening inauguration for us. They did kind of a spiritual ceremony. We spilled a good bit of rum on the floor and they had a community dance class. So I really like to think that the bones of the building are soaked in Cuban culture. And we went on to present a lot of Global Cuba Fest there. And then a couple of years ago, Gio approached me about presenting Malpaso at the Lightbox, and it seemed only fitting. And it's extraordinary how the artists that grace your stage, they leave so much behind, and we're the better for it, and the energy remains. So I just, I wanted to say to Gio how grateful I am for years of collaboration, for the extraordinary work that you do. It is not always easy doing cultural exchange. Nobody ever said it would be, but it is extremely rewarding. And it's thrilling for me to be here tonight and to see all of you. Thanks. Gracias.
Thank you, Beth. That's wonderful to hear, and you're fantastic. And you're right, you and Ever are a staple of this city. And I'm so proud to be able to collaborate with you. And thank you. Thank you very much. So,
well, I'm going to just do a few housekeeping things, and I'm going to ask that everybody please in the audience keep your microphones muted and your cameras off so that we can enjoy the program that we're going to present. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Ross LeClair, who's going to be our moderator tonight. Ross LeClair joined the Joyce Theater as a producer in 2016. In his role managing Joyce Theater productions, he has produced works for dance artists such as Maria Kochetova, Wendy Whelan, Ohad Nareen, Mats Ek, James Whiteside, Sonia Taye, and maintains a consistent producing relationship with Havana's Malpaso Dance Company, who's with us tonight. Ross has produced the Joyce's revival of Melissa Fenley's State of Darkness, which was the first ticketed live streamed engagement from the Joyce stage since the beginning of the pandemic. God knows that's affected all of us and how we present live performances. He is an active member of the Dance USA Presenters Council and has spoken at the Shanghai International Arts Festival and NYU's Translucent Borders workshop in Abu Dhabi. Ross has graduated from New York University with a BFA at dance and a BA in journalism. Prior to joining the Joyce, he worked in various roles at NBC News, including a field producer for CNBC. Welcome, Ross.
Oof.
Wow.
Hello, Ross.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And to Gio and the Copperbridge Foundation first, just want to say congratulations on your first 10 years. And I know we're all really looking forward to the next 10 and more. So congratulations on this series, and thanks so much for having me. This is a real treat for me. So first, I wanted to share a little bit about what the Joyce Theater is, if anyone doesn't know. We are a 500-seat venue for dance in New York City. We present a season of 48 weeks every year with dance companies from around the US and around the world, all different styles, genres, countries represented in our season. And I was hired, as mentioned, in 2016 as a producer because the Joyce has now started developing and producing original work. So roughly, anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks of that season each year is actually developed and produced by the Joyce, and those are the projects that I'm responsible for. I think Beth, it's possible that our executive director was on that same trip with you 20 years ago, Linda Shelton. So that's also when the Joyce Theater's relationship with the dance community in Cuba started. So our executive director traveled on that trip in 2000. And ever since then, we've had a really deep and meaningful relationship with the community there. So it's kind of funny that trip was such a meaningful moment for so many of us. And so since then, the Joyce has been, we've invited numerous companies from Cuba to perform on the Joyce stage. We've also organized almost annually trips with different donors and patrons, and also other arts organizations in the US who are looking for some help connecting with the community down there. We organize trips down, and we also have been bringing international choreographers to work with the dance community there as well. So a lot of different avenues that the Joyce has maintained in this relationship, and all of them very fruitful. And I personally just feel lucky that when I joined, that relationship was really already in the works, and I was able to just pick up and just keep going. And for me, that has been just a true honor. I feel like I've made so many friends, both in my career and just in my life there. So it's really special for me to be here with all of you tonight. So before I introduce our panelists, I want to say hello and introduce Copperbridge's community partner who's here tonight, Michelle Grant Murray. Michelle is a choreographer and performer and the associate professor and coordinator of dance for Miami-Dade College's Kendall campus. And Michelle, I'll turn it over to you to say a little bit more.
Thank you, Ross. I am so delighted to be here tonight. I cannot tell you how exciting it is to be part of this organization and to collaborate with everyone. I first want to say congratulations to Copperbridge and to Gio. You're doing the Copperbridge Foundation, and you all are doing exceptional work. It's really important work to the community, and it's very important work for young, inspiring dancers. So many of them are here tonight from the college, and I'm really excited that they're here because they don't have to be, they can be anywhere else, but they decided to be here with us. I do want to say that my connection to Malpaso is so deep. I don't think I've ever really shared that story with anybody. I was on an airplane on my way to New York, and I saw this advertisement about Malpaso, and I was like, oh, I want that. And when I got back to Miami, I had an email from you. And so I was so like, I couldn't believe that it was actually happening, that I had put that out into the universe, and the thing manifested and it came to pass. It was there. And those moments inside of G303 in that dance studio at Miami-Dade College Kendall campus, that energy remains there and has inspired so many young people to do work and to bridge these other cultural gaps, because there are so many questions that still remain. Miami is a very unique space for culture and for dance. And so being able to bridge the gaps and have the conversations and share the space and share movement is very beautiful. Miami-Dade College is a dance program that is filled, it's dynamic and it's filled with space and energy, diversity, and artistic excellence. Our mission of the program is in direct alignment with Copperbridge Foundation. We are dedicated to promoting culture and educational exchange that broadens perspectives and edifies lifelong learning experiences. The dance program at MDC Kendall explores dance from a decolonized lens with a particular emphasis on the corporality, the moving body, and how we juxtapose and is aligned with humanity, ecology, sustainability, and earth ethics. Our practice includes shared leadership, so students are also in leadership. It's not just me, I'm also learning from them, which I think is most important. We explore space physically, intellectually, spiritually, kinetic, and kinesthetic sensibilities. The dance program's first collaboration and first experience was with Malpaso, and wow, what an amazing experience. I picked up Osnell from the hotel on South Beach, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I actually was a little sad when I had to sell that little white car a few weeks ago because I remembered you sitting in the backseat of the car, and I just got rid of it last week. It was great. And now I'm friends with everybody on Facebook and we see each other, and I'm very excited to be here. The work has definitely changed my life and changed the life of the company and of the institution, how the dance program actually functions and how it operates. It's opened so many doors, and it opened the eyes of so many people, not just inside of the dance department, but also their families. Because when these performances are offered to the students via Miami Light Project and FUNDarte, then families also come. And that is really important, that we reach out to families. It's about the families. It's not just about the individual, it's about the community. So I am so excited to be here. Thank you all so much for showing up. And I'm really, really excited. I hope that we have a great next 2 days. I'm excited to share this experience, and thank you.
So I will introduce our two sets of companies or panelists, and then dive in with questions. And I know then at the end we will have some time for audience questions as well. So if you're thinking of anything, there'll be some time for that too. So first, I'd like to introduce the three co-founders of Malpaso Dance Company: Fernando Saez, who's also the executive director; Osnel Delgado, who's the artistic director; and Daile Carazana, who's the associate artistic director. Malpaso is an independent contemporary company based in Havana and founded in 2012. And I also have a very deep connection to this company. They are considered an associate project of Joyce Theater Productions, so work very, very closely with these three artists and the entire team down at Malpaso. And so now I think we have a short clip to share so you can all get a sense of their work, and then you'll hear plenty more coming up. And also joining us tonight is Narciso Medina, who had a long career as a dancer in Havana and then a choreographer, and he's now working in Tokyo, so really taking this work and these collaborations worldwide. So we also have a clip to share of Narciso's work, and then again, you'll be hearing plenty more. Great. All right, so I'm going to get started with some questions for our panelists. And actually, Michelle, I know you'll have some questions from some students as well. So I'd really love to start with each company. Maybe I'll start with you, Narciso, and just sort of give us a brief description really of your mission and what drives you to create work so that we all have a sense of what you do and why.
Narciso, Ross pregunta, ¿cuál es tu misión? Y si pudieras explicar, por favor, por qué, el porqué de tu misión.
Mi misión es la danza. Llevo ya más de 40 años haciendo la danza, enseñar la danza en mi país, bueno, por el mundo.
My mission is dance. That's about it. I've been doing it for 40 years, spreading dance in my country and also throughout the world. And that's pretty much it.
Great. I love that. Simple, to the point. And Fernando, I'll ask you the same. If you could just share a little bit of background on Malpaso and the company's mission.
All right. Thank you, Ross, for the question. And hello, everyone. Thank you very much, Copperbridge Foundation, and everyone that is making possible this beautiful panel and conversation. Well, Malpaso has to protect and to promote the work of true high standard action is connected to the co-founders of the truth. And we believe that we come from a dancing island. We believe that dance and music are the artistic expressions, the deepest anchored to the bottom of the Cuban culture. And on regard to contemporary dance, we felt that there was a lack of balance between the highest standards for dancers and the poor choreographic level in our context. So that brought us to founding the company, because we actually love, as Narciso Medina does, dance. And we moved forward with the project trying to achieve on a daily basis this basic mission that we do have.
Great. Thank you both for setting the stage for us. Gio mentioned this earlier, and as did Beth, that there's a real interest, I think, in this conversation about collaboration. And I think in dance, that can be a choreographer taking inspiration from their dancers, that can be working with a designer, that can be working with other artists across disciplines or borders even. So actually, Fernando, I want to ask you to go a little bit further on that answer and sort of share how collaboration specifically fits into the mission of Malpaso.
All right. I believe that from the human perspective and from the artistic viewpoint, bridging is absolutely necessary to expand our boundaries, our frontiers. So if we have as a mission to protect and to promote the work of emerging Cuban choreographers, if we want to increase, to upgrade, so to say, in our standards in this field, the best that we can do is to go beyond ourselves, is to listen to the voices from around the world and listen to those voices that we can learn from. Collaborations are always a meeting, a kind of encounter in the middle of the road. I will approach you, you will come to me, and we will learn from each other. I believe that is the basic starting point for any collaboration. And it is about learning. It is about fighting our own cliches, assumptions, and solutions. And this has been our philosophy, and I'm convinced that this is going to be something that is going to be fueling the existence of Malpaso until the end of our days. And I believe also, Ross, that this basic principle of collaboration is deeply connected to the essence of the Cuban culture. We are an island, obviously, yes, but only from the geographical viewpoint. If we think ourselves from a cultural perspective, we are a harbor, not an island at all. So we have been shaping our culture from conversations, from dialogues among individuals, cultures from all over the planet. So this mission to the company is deeply connected to who we are from the cultural viewpoint.
Narciso, I want to ask you sort of the same question. How does collaboration play a role in your work, whether with your dancers, I know also with musicians and designers? What does collaboration mean and how does that drive your work?
Narciso, la pregunta de Ross es la siguiente. ¿Cómo es que colaboración juega en cuanto a tu trabajo y tu como tu trayectoria. Además, tus colaboraciones se extienden mucho más allá de simplemente los bailarines, también colaboras con músicos y diseñadores, etc. ¿Puedes hablar un poco sobre eso?
Y también un poco de eso mismo, de una compañía cubana en Tokio. Eso mismo habla de, por favor, un poco más.
Sí, sí, mira, mi compañía tiene 26 años de haber sido creada. En ese tiempo, además del trabajo específico, ¿no?, de mi compañía de teatro, de enseñar la danza, hemos colaborado con muchísimos otros proyectos, tanto dentro de Cuba como fuera de Cuba.
My company has been established for over 26 years. And of course, we've collaborated with all kinds of creative dancers and musicians and other performers to create both in Havana and in Tokyo.
Sí. De por sí, desde los años 94, 95 y 96 fueron los primeros años de mi compañía. El trabajo fue muy fuerte en cuanto precisamente a esto, la colaboración. Una vez que mi compañía fue fundada, a Cuba fueron muchos bailarines de otros países, de Suiza, de Japón, de Estados Unidos, y ahí establecimos todo este trabajo de colaboración. Tuvieron mucho interés por nuestro trabajo técnico, nuestro trabajo coreográfico, aprender nuestra danza, y así empezamos nosotros todo nuestro trabajo artístico.
From 94 to 96, when his company was starting in Havana, there was a great deal of work that needed to be done to get the company off the ground. And at that time, there was also a great interest from companies outside of Cuba, from all
over the world.
From all over the world, including Japan. And so collaboration and international global collaboration has been very key to his work and to the company's development.
De por sí, mi compañía casi surge por una colaboración con una coreógrafa norteamericana, con Suki Young. A Suki Young la conocí en el año 89 en Finlandia, y en cuanto fundé mi compañía en el año 94, Suki Young viajó a Cuba y nos montó 5 coreografías, y después ella nos preparó todo nuestro viaje que hicimos a los Estados Unidos, a Nueva York, a Vermont, a Los Ángeles, a San Francisco, y bueno, Gio también estaba inmerso en ese proyecto.
So his dance company actually grew out of a collaboration with an American choreographer, Suki John.
Narciso was our first company.
Yes. And so that collaboration gave birth to what is today the Narciso Medina Company. And they actually brought Narciso and his company to the United States, and they toured in New York, Vermont, and several other places. So collaboration from the very birth of the company has been very important to him.
Y actualmente, bueno, este trabajo de colaboración está sucediendo directamente aquí en Tokio, donde ya llevo unos cuantos años. Creé mi compañía. La mayoría de mis alumnos, de mis bailarines, son japoneses. Colaboro con la Asociación de Danza Contemporánea de Japón, bailando con ellos en eventos. Es decir, que ha sido todo el sentido de colaboración de mi trabajo.
So he established his company in Japan, and all of his dancers are actually Japanese. And he collaborates and dances with several contemporary dance institutions in Japan that further the work of contemporary dance in the Japanese culture. So he's busy. Yeah.
I'd actually love to follow up on that last point and ask Narciso about sort of like, what are the things from his Cuban identity and dance training that he feels like he brings to Japan? And then what are the things or differences with the dancers there, and how do they come together?
Narciso, la pregunta es, ¿qué es tu parte de cultura y entrenamiento de ser cubano que tú traes contigo a Japón y al trabajo que estás haciendo ahora en el Japón? Tu cultura y tu identidad cubana.
Sí,
Y,
mira,
y también qué recibes de la cultura japonés en tu trabajo.
bueno, mira, empezando es que el mayor premio que ha obtenido la obra mía, mi obra coreográfica, ha sido precisamente en Japón. Yo presenté ya hace unos años mi obra Metamorfosis en un concurso internacional aquí en Tokio, y esa obra ganó el Grand Prix, el premio de jurado, el premio del público. Es decir, hubo una aceptación total de mi trabajo. Es decir, que ahí yo sentí como mi obra, mi manera, mi estilo de la danza podía mezclarse perfectamente con el espíritu cultural de Japón.
He said the greatest honor he's received to date for his dance company and his choreography actually came in Japan, where he was recognized for his piece called Metamorphosis, and he won the Grand Prix award. And so that for him validated what he brings to the dance and how seamlessly it actually works with Japanese culture and contemporary dance.
Mi trabajo creativo, mi trabajo tanto de entrenamiento como coreográfico, está centrado en la energía, en la respiración, en la espiritualidad que se puede desprender del cuerpo, y precisamente esos elementos yo lo encuentro en la cultura tradicional de Japón. Y yo, esa manera mía, esa manera de sentir la energía, la respiración, la espiritualidad, el trabajo del cuerpo, me ha sido muy fácil establecerlo aquí en Japón, porque precisamente está en la cultura tradicional de Japón, en el buto, etc.
The elements of spirituality and the energy that flows from your body when you're in dance are very central to his identity as a dancer and the work that he does. And interestingly enough, that actually works very well within the Japanese context, because spirituality and that energy and that spirit, it comes in the dance as well and in the culture in Japan.
Además que los japoneses son unas esponjas, tienen un nivel de captación, un nivel de asimilación de toda la cultura de lo que se les presenta, y me ha sido muy fácil enseñar lo que yo traigo de Cuba como cultura, que es precisamente esa espiritualidad que tienen los cubanos, ese trabajo con el cuerpo, ese trabajo también, como ya dije, ya de la energía, y tenemos muchos puntos de contacto, y bueno, yo he aprovechado eso para llevar mi arte y mi educación.
He says the Japanese are like sponges when it comes to learning and adapting culture and information, everything that he brings. He said the point of contact is that spirituality and that form of dance that he brings from his own Cuban experience, yet it transcends and connects the Japanese spirituality and dance and movement as well. So for him, it's been very easy to adapt and incorporate and teach and evolve as a dancer.
Ross?
Great. I want to actually kind of connect that thread over to you, Daile, as a dancer in Malpaso. You've had so many experiences with choreographers from around the world. We mentioned a few in my introduction. Ohad Naharin, actually, you're the first Cuban company to perform work by Merce Cunningham. So I'm curious for you, where are those points of contact as you're learning all these different techniques that are sometimes quite different from your daily training? What do you bring into those experiences, and where do you find those points of contact that Narciso was mentioning to bridge that gap?
Primero que nada, nosotros los bailarines de Cuba, en las escuelas durante los 8 años que estudiamos recibimos varias técnicas contemporáneas. De estas técnicas contemporáneas se encuentran Merce Cunningham, por ejemplo, parte de la técnica de Merce Cunningham, de José Limón, de Martha Graham.
She says that actually in the 8 years that they study and they're students in the school in contemporary dance, many influences like Mercer Cunningham and a few other contemporary and contemporary choreographers are very key to their learning and their education. So they're very well versed in these different areas and choreographers and methods of choreography.
Entonces también se mezcla mucho y es de donde surge la técnica moderna cubana, todo lo que tiene que ver con nuestro folclore. Y entonces se agregan los movimientos de caderas y tal.
So it's very nice because it's kind of like a melting pot of all these different styles, plus the movements that are typical and the body movement, dance techniques from from Cuban dance, which includes moving the hips and the body to the music. So it melts very nicely. It merges very nicely for them, and that's where they get what their performance.
De cierta forma, conocemos parte de la técnica, como lo que mencionaba ahorita Ross, acerca, por ejemplo, en el caso de Merce Cunningham específicamente, pero fue muy difícil porque aunque conociéramos acerca de esta técnica, nunca la recibimos tan pura como cuando vinieron a montar la coreografía con Malpaso.
So it's interesting because even though they are very, very familiar with Merce Cunningham and all the contemporary choreographers, of course, it's not as pure as coming directly from the United States. So it was the first time when I guess they did a choreography from the United States that they actually saw the pure version of that, and, not the interpretation of it.
Cuando suceden estas experiencias de esta forma, tanto en el caso de Merce como en el caso de Johan Naharin, que también tiene su propia técnica, que es el gaga, para montar sus piezas, el tiempo que ellos van a estar con los bailarines, se decide que ellos impartan clases durante todo ese tiempo y el cuerpo se vaya adaptando a su manera de moverse y a esa nueva información que se va a recibir.
So during these new methods of choreography that they're learning and they're interpreting, their bodies and their movements actually take in the information differently, and that informs their dance moving forward in this new way.
Eso no quita, por supuesto, la manera de interpretar del bailarín, que tiene en su sangre cultura cubana en este caso, y aporta de esa cultura cubana que trae en su información básica, aporta a ese proceso también. Y la pieza, a pesar de ser distinta y nueva para uno, es también, recibe también cosas nuevas de uno para la pieza.
So it doesn't take away from the fact that they, as Cuban dancers who have their own cultural identity in dance, they bring that to the piece. And so the piece evolves and grows with that experience and that, what they bring to the party, what they bring as dancers with that experience.
Creo que precisamente estos puentes que se establecen entre los coreógrafos, las técnicas y los bailarines y las culturas es lo que hace que se enriquezca cada vez el arte en general.
She really believes that these collaborations between choreographers and dancers are so key to the evolution of contemporary dance. That's really the beauty of it.
I totally agree, and I love that one doesn't sacrifice the other. That it's the two identities can sort of remain so true to themselves, but also grow from that interaction. And I'd love to ask you, Oz, now as a choreographer who has also been in many of these processes with international choreographers. Fernando mentioned that the mission of the company is really twofold. It's to give you all as dancers access to the highest quality of choreography, but also to promote and protect Cuban choreography as well, which you do so beautifully. So how do those exchanges, if we call them, how have they then in turn impacted your choreography, or have they not? Do you really try to keep your creations pure?
Yes, well, I think that each choreographer follow their own rules. They have like different kind of ways to work with the dancers, sometimes through improvisations, sometimes through a specific method of vocabulary. Sometimes they use a technique to communicate. In the case of MERS, for example, that's, I think it is an information that we as a young dancers and choreographers also learned how enrich our vocabulary in order to create something new. Each piece that you are doing it's like telling a story. So your story is depend of the tools that you use to communicate something. It's very difficult. I don't think that in my case, I have a specific way to do the process, to lead the process. It's always different because each story is different. So I learned from each choreographer, let's say the ways to approach tools that they use with the dancers, but the same way it's kind of important understand what you want to say and how do you want to communicate that things. I think that's also important work with the dancer. The dancer is the vehicle, the trade vehicle that you use to communicate yourself as a choreographer. Dancers that also are creators as well. I mean, they are part of the process in a really straight way. I mean, they are always there for you. So it's very important also respect and have a space for them to develop their skills. The company, as a company, also try to encourage the new members to do their own work. In the past, we have been doing that since the very beginning. I think that we have right now Daile, she's creating beautiful works, Betty, Beatriz Garcia, and also Abel Rojo in the past. So I think it's a way that we want to continue develop, trying to enrich the young choreographers to make their own pieces and combine with the older foreigner choreographers that we can invite to work with us.
Awesome, thank you. Michelle, I'm gonna turn it over to you. I know you have some questions from some of your students if you wanna share a few of those.
Yes, I have a few questions from the students. Angel Rodriguez, who is here with us tonight, first-year college student, young dance major, had a beautiful question. He watched a couple of the videos and he says, what's the meaning of Cuban contemporary dance and what do you want to transmit in these pieces? What do the costumes have to do with the contemporary setting? What are the specific meanings of the traditions? And that's a really deep, reflective question because you're talking about tradition. So perhaps you'd like to expand upon that a bit. Thank you.
I'm going to translate that for Narciso. Narciso, la pregunta viene de un joven estudiante de Michelle, Ángel Rodríguez, que pregunta, luego de contemplar estas hermosas obras que él pudo ver por video, ¿no? Hicieron cuestionar cuál es el significado que quieren transmitir la danza contemporánea cubana al crear las piezas. ¿El vestuario dentro de la danza contemporánea cubana tiene algún significado o una tradición específica? Si es así, ¿cuál es?
¿Me escucha bien?
Sí, perfecto.
Ok. Mira, la danza contemporánea cubana es muy rica. En Cuba existen más de 10, 12 compañías de danza contemporánea y todas esas compañías están inmersos en un trabajo muy particular, cada uno con su esencia, con su manera de hacer y de concebir la danza. Eso es muy importante que se conozca, ¿no?
So he says, right now, in this moment in time, there are about 10 to 12 contemporary dance companies in Cuba, each with very specific styles and ways of communicating their dance. So, you know, each one has their own way of communicating what it is, the Cubanness. essentially.
En cuanto a mi trabajo específico ya en la danza y la utilización, por ejemplo, del vestuario, el vestuario es un lenguaje más junto al movimiento, junto al espacio. El vestuario está concebido en cuanto al trabajo dramatúrgico de la obra y habla, tiene que decir como dice el movimiento, como dice la música.
So for him specifically, wardrobe is another language that allows him to create a drama, a story about the dance. And so for him, it's very important to have, the wardrobe to be spot on and to be able to interpret what he's trying to tell.
No, great.
Yeah.
Yes. And I want to take this opportunity now to mention that for those of you that have joined us this evening, all the videos of pre-performances from the two dance companies here today are available on our website. So if you didn't have time to see it, this would be a great time afterwards to log in and see the great performances of these two companies to see exactly what we're talking about as a reference.
Narciso, ¿tiene algo que añadir en cuanto al vestuario que utiliza?
No, que muchas veces hasta el propio cuerpo es el vestuario. La danza cubana usa mucho el desnudo o el semidesnudo, es decir, hablamos mucho con el cuerpo también, es decir, como elementos también expresivos.
So for him, the bodies or his body is so important. That's why oftentimes you'll see nude or semi-nude, wardrobe to really show the body and its movement, to really, really see it specifically without hiding it. Okay.
Thank you. This question is for Fernando. Fernando came and did a wonderful lecture at MDC Kendall in 2012. I haven't forgotten it. And I'm really interested in hearing your comments on this. And it comes from a young woman. Her name is Janaea Morrison. She's a physical therapy major and a dance history student at Kendall campus. And she's actually from Trinidad. So it's beautiful to have her here. Thank you so much. Her question involves the essential characteristics of Cuban contemporary dance, which is interesting because Narciso just mentioned that there are 10 to 12 different companies that have specific languages, but what are the essential characteristics that make it Cuban contemporary dance?
Thank you so much. It's a gorgeous question that would lead us to develop a whole semester on the matter. It is a very complex subject, and I have to connect this answer to Narciso's one. Yes, richness is connected to diversity, and Cuban contemporary dance is diverse enough up to the point that we cannot answer in a simple way about one archetypical Cuban contemporary dance. That's something very hard to define. We are on a daily basis working on that. As we cannot affirm that there is one Cuban culture, that there is one Cubanness, that is a complete myth or a lie, we have to accept that there are many micro-Cuban cultures interacting in a permanent evolution. In the same way, we have to understand that Cuban contemporary dance is diverse. The umbrella of contemporary dance is pretty ample. It's a very ecumenical dance style. I would say, as Narciso mentioned, that there is a whole range of Cuban dance companies, and each ensemble is researching and creating in different directions. I think that the conversation among all those Cuban ensembles are defining on a daily basis what we are in contemporary dance terms. Of course, there are some companies more rooted to the tradition. There are some other companies more connected to experimentation. There are some companies mixing the old and the new, and we are all trying to reinvent what Cuban contemporary dance is all about and a little piece of what the Cuban contemporary culture is all about. Of course, if we analyze in a particular way each company, we are going to find particular characteristics and features. That's something that would take a lot of time, but I'm more than happy to follow up on the answer.
Thank you so much. We'd love to have you for a semester. Bev?
Okay, thank you.
With that last answer in mind, actually, for either Narciso or maybe Osnel, what do you think is next in contemporary dance in Cuba? What's exciting? What's new? Where's it headed?
Well, I think that right now the whole world is living like a very hard moment during the pandemic, and we have been lucky enough to just going back to work in our studio. We are trying to enjoy the time that we spend together, trying to taking care of our friends and our families in order to keep doing this beautiful profession that we choose. But we certainly, I hope that our future is continue doing what we are doing just right now. I mean, that is what we love, trying to keep connecting with different choreographers, with different kind of people. I think each company have to follow their own strategies depending on the moment that they are living. But I think that the future of the dance is depending also to the audience. That's why we need people that are really committed with the work. People that really need the theaters, people that really need the expression of the body, people that really love what is happening in this rehearsal studio space, and people that is respecting, of course, these difficult qualities of life that right now the world is implementing. So I think our future is that it's just continue in a safe way if we can doing what we are doing, and let's see what happens in the future. For us, we have performances next. I think it's 4, 5, and 6 of December in the Garcia Lorca Alice Alonso Theater in Havana. We are very excited because we also we don't perform in Cuba a lot, so our audience and our friends, I think they are waiting for the company a long time, and it's an opportunity to show what we have been developing in these 8 years of the company right now.
Ross, I'll translate for Narciso. Narciso, Ross pregunta, como tal, ¿cómo ves el futuro de la danza cubana en el mundo?
Bueno, va a depender mucho de lo que finalmente suceda con esto del coronavirus, ¿no? Porque ha trancado un poco todo el desarrollo que venía haciendo. La danza cubana tenía una proyección internacional muy fuerte, y esto un poco del coronavirus ha detenido muchos procesos creativos que se estaban haciendo para llevar al mundo, ¿no? A los escenarios del mundo.
Well, the coronavirus will determine a great deal about the future of dance companies, and especially Cuban dance companies, because they had been experiencing a tremendous momentum when this all came about. So hopefully when it's safe again and things get back to normal, that momentum will continue in the world with Cuban dance and bring it to outside of Cuba to the rest of the world.
Por otra parte, en los últimos años, 10 años para acá, hay muchos bailarines cubanos, maestros, profesores regados por el mundo, por Europa, por Asia, Estados Unidos, por América, y ya no solamente son las compañías que van de gira a esos países, sino que en esos países también están los maestros, los coreógrafos, los bailarines, y se ha ido inyectando directamente la danza cubana en todo su género, y ha sido una nueva manera de que la danza cubana llegue a esos países directamente con todos estos profesores, coreógrafos, bailarines.
Well, it's interesting because it's not just Cuban dance companies that are visiting and performing throughout the world. But at this point, there are teachers, there are choreographers, there's a lot of dancers of all sorts, producers of dance, Cuban, that are actually already all over the world injecting that Cuban, and I use that word because that's what Narciso said, injecting that Cubanness into the world of dance, throughout everywhere.
Sí. De todas maneras, es incomparable el trabajo que se hace en Cuba directamente, las compañías que están trabajando, los bailarines, sintiendo ese diario de Cuba, esa energía de Cuba, que cuando sale hacia el extranjero, hacia en gira, también es otra cosa diferente a lo que nosotros que estamos fuera de Cuba estamos enseñando. Es decir, en Cuba está la maquinaria, está el diario, está esa energía que también suena un poquito diferente cuando las compañías salen al extranjero a llevar esa misma cultura.
He says the companies and dancers and choreographers that are in Cuba, of course, are connected every day with that Cubanness and that essence of Cubanness. That it's not necessarily the case for those who have, chosen to work abroad, where, maybe they're a little bit more of a hybrid. Of course, and that is also the case when dancers and companies perform outside of Cuba. He said there's something very unique, the energy and the Cubanness of the island, that when they perform there, it's different.
Okay.
Both Osnel and Narciso touched on, of course, the impact that all of us have felt over the last 9 months of the pandemic. So I'd love to just go a little bit deeper on that and ask about how the pandemic has been impacting your work the last few months, and really further, have there been any positive changes from, I think, sort of a more open approach to working digitally? I mean, even this conversation now taking place over Zoom with people from all around the world. I know in my own work, there's just been so many new opportunities to connect with artists. It's not the same as the work we normally do, but I guess what are some of the challenges and maybe some of the positive outcomes of working through a global pandemic for Osnel and Narciso? Sorry, that's a very long question for you to maybe translate and boil down, but there you go.
Okay, I will translate for Narciso. Con la pandemia y ahora que tenemos que trabajar de distancia y fuera de estar juntos todo el mundo, ¿no? ¿Cómo eso ha impactado lo que estás haciendo hoy día en tu trabajo y en lo que estás haciendo como coreógrafo?
Sí, mira, en realidad me ha dado nuevas ideas, nuevas posibilidades de trabajo que existían y que yo no había explotado porque, bueno, la propia necesidad no me había llevado a eso. Pero ha sido el último espectáculo que yo hice, que ya estrené, de 20 minutos, fue precisamente a través de, con los bailarines desde su casa. Hicimos todos los ensayos, hicimos toda la manera y estrenamos en cuanto en Japón se dio la posibilidad de que pudiéramos hacer algo para el público. Ahí mismo ya el otro día teníamos el espectáculo montado. Es decir, ha sido que hemos perdido el contacto directo con los bailarines, ¿no? Del salón de ensayo, pero también ha nacido una nueva posibilidad que puede ser explotada también.
He said, interestingly enough, for him, it's caused him to sort of retrench and think about new possibilities that he wouldn't otherwise have thought of. And so for him, he's seen it as an opportunity to grow. He also said that they had a premiere of a performance, a 20-minute piece, where everybody rehearsed independently on their own until that moment when in Japan they got the green light to be able to actually go and premiere the piece. So he said that was all very new and obviously untried until the moment that they got together and it was, normal.
Además que mi trabajo como profesor, como maestro, que me gusta mucho y es una de las cosas principales que hago, me ha podido dar la posibilidad de que desde mi casa pueda tener alumnos en Australia, en España, en América, a un mismo tiempo. Es decir, que nos ha abierto la perspectiva de trabajo más amplio.
He said for him, actually, it's really broadened his perspective in that today he can have students join him virtually from Australia, Germany, the United States, anywhere really. And so for him, it's really opened up possibilities that really weren't there before, didn't think about before.
Thank you.
Okay. Gracias.
Bueno, en el caso de Malpaso ha sido un poquito más difícil porque nosotros, el repertorio nuestro necesita mucho de que estemos juntos.
So in Malpaso's case, it's been a little bit different. Their particular practice and repertoire really demands that they work together on a daily basis.
El tiempo que estuvimos lejos, que no pudimos estar en nuestra sede, por supuesto, tuvimos que idear varias maneras para no quedarnos parados como el mundo entero hizo también.
So she says, during the height of the pandemic, they had to really they had to come up with creative solutions because they just couldn't stop like the rest of the world did. They needed to continue.
Entonces, ideamos igual, tratar de hacer nuestras clases de ballet, que es el entrenamiento diario de la compañía, a través de las redes sociales, y así nos íbamos rectificando, íbamos haciendo las cosas, pero era muy frustrante porque realmente no es nuestra realidad, y pensar que eso no era suficiente ya nos frustraba mucho y pensábamos que iba a ser bien difícil cuando hubiéramos empezar.
So for them as dancers, even though this was necessary and they had to do it, it was frustrating because it's not really how they love to work. And even though they had, they did ballet classes and they did classes through social media, I guess Facebook Live, and other methods, it wasn't satisfying and actually it was frustrating.
Pensar que nada de lo que estábamos haciendo era suficiente, ni era lo que realmente nos iba a dar de nuevo lo que teníamos, era bien triste.
Yeah,
al regresar
for them as dancers, it was they were saddened because they felt that they weren't able to give their all, and in the way that they totally, they give in their all 100%. They felt that it was not quite where they should be. So as dancers, they were very saddened.
Entonces, al regresar al salón, fue una especie de explosión, reencontrarnos de nuevo y sentir el tremendo compromiso que teníamos de adelantar todo lo que habíamos perdido. Creo que hizo que todos maduráramos en estos 8 meses, 8 años.
She said that when they finally got together, it was like an explosion and that it was so, great. She also says that in these 8 months, they feel like they've matured 8 years because of that separation. But they, finally when they got together, it was wonderful.
Creo que ha sido como cuando a una persona le dicen tienes 2 días de vida y quiere vivir todo lo que no ha vivido en su vida anterior. Eso ha sido el reencuentro para nosotros, no solamente de ensayar nuestro repertorio, sino también de procesos creativos. En tan poco tiempo han surgido tantos procesos creativos y tan hermosos que creo que ha sido resultado de toda esta contención.
So for her, the company felt like a person that they tell you, you've got 2 days to live when they finally got back together. And so, in fact, it's led for them to deepen their creative practice. And so, it's actually been positive in a way for them.
I must say that I agree totally. For me, this particular moment, to be able to share the screen with so many people as we do at this moment, again, it's a sign of celebration. And my phone does not stop buzzing of how many people are so happy to partake in this. And the fact is that you are, as you know, my family. You're my extended family. And to be able to share this at this moment with you and the world is quite amazing. And to see that this energy is going out, because again, the phone does not stop with how many people are just enjoying hearing what you have to say. Again, this is the benefits of this situation as well. So, love it.
Yeah, I mean, again, for me to be able to connect with all of you is really special. And I mean, I know creating dance in the United States alone is very difficult. Creating exchanges with Cuba, even more difficult. And then, you know, working through a global pandemic, you know, is just another example of just how challenging the work we all do is. But I think the fact that we all do it and keep doing it, like someone said in the chat, like your life depends on it. I think that just speaks to the resilience of artists and of dancers and of Cubans. So Fernando, I'm just wondering, I mean, I know we've gone through so many experiences and obstacles together. If you're going to share a little bit about where that resilience comes from and how important it is for you getting your work done. You're muted.
I was absorbed by the conversation and the question. And I do believe that we have been navigating through somehow a tragic situation. When we take a look around us, when we take a look to where dance was when everything began, and it has been a terrible reminder of the circumstances of the world, of the way we treat nature, of the way we treat ourselves in the society. So it has been not a surprise in many ways, but I do believe, going straight to the point, to your question, is that I believe that the Cuban culture is coming from resilience. I think that we have been learning how to survive and how to go through storms since the very first days. And that is not maybe the case. All the members of the company, as most of them are very young, but I have been here around for a little longer. So thinking about the 90s in Cuba, thinking about so many different circumstances we have gone through our history. I think that it is very important to be completely focused on what we believe, what dance is meaning to all of us. And I have to come back to Daile's response. Yes, we do have to feel that dance is alive. We have to feel that we have to express ourselves on a daily basis as it is the last day on earth to all of us. Because actually we don't know. We don't know if we are going to be able to continue doing what we do. I think that dance is so devaluated in the stock market of today's art life. So it's very uncertain. If we continue to struggle, if we continue to do what we do, if we have been fighting in order to survive as a company, if we help each other, it is because we have a strong convictions of what dance is all about and what it means to us. And this is very important. This is our fuel. This is the commitment that we have to this art. So this is a moment to collaborate more than ever. This is a moment to help each other, to feel compassion, and this is a moment to work together to move forward, if we can make it at all. We will need each other very much in the days to come.
Absolutely. I'd actually love to sort of extend that same question to Narciso, if you feel like that now being outside of Cuba, if that resilience and endurance has helped you as you work now in another country.
La pregunta de Ross es la siguiente. La cultura cubana, los cubanos, como tal, tenemos una tremenda fuerza, ¿no? De sobrevivir todas las cosas que nos llegan. Es parte de la cultura cubana, de los cubanos que tuvieron que navegar muchas cosas difíciles en sus vidas y en la historia de Cuba. Como tú estás viviendo fuera de Cuba, ¿tú sientes eso aún en tu propia vida, esa fuerza de ser cubana de ser cubano fuera de los fuera de Cuba?
Sí, mira, como decía, para mí todo es una... ¿Me escucha?
Sí.
Para mí todo es una oportunidad. Todo suceso, toda cosa buena o mala, para mí siempre se abre una oportunidad para plantearme nuevas cosas, nuevos retos. Y mi experiencia de cubano, de haber vivido en Cuba y trabajado mucho tiempo, a veces con todo, a veces sin nada, me ha dado la posibilidad ya cultural de buscar manera y modo de adecuarme a mi obra según las situaciones del momento.
For him, challenges personally represent opportunities. And so even though he's had to live through times in Cuba with a lot and live in his life with very little, he's very adaptable, and he really embraces the changes that come about and the opportunities that open for him.
Sí, de por sí me gusta ponerme un poco las cosas difíciles para poder hacer que nazca lo nuevo. Cuando yo dejé danza contemporánea de Cuba, 12 años, un lugar maravilloso, tremenda compañía, tremendos salones, y yo me fui a hacer mi compañía, yo me metí en un solar, en un lugar muy pequeño, y porque era un obstáculo que yo me quería imponer, y desde ese obstáculo fue que empezó a surgir y se desarrolló, bueno, toda mi compañía desde ahora.
So for him, he really likes to give himself some challenges in life. And he left a very comfortable company at where he was a dancer to establish his own company, actually in a very poor part of Havana, in a very poor neighborhood where everybody was wondering why. And that was a challenge that he gave himself to really grow as an artist. And so he likes his challenges.
Es decir, que me gustan los obstáculos para poder hacer que nazca mi creación.
He likes his obstacles and challenges so that his creativity can grow.
Gracias.
Thank you. There are some really great questions coming in the chat. I'm already sure that we can't get to all of them, but there's some that have been so great. There's one actually that I would love to go to first. It's something, Fernando, you and I have talked about a lot in our work, and it's about the assumptions that American presenters and choreographers may have when it comes to working with your company or presenting your company. I think in America in general, contemporary dance is very Eurocentric. So there are therefore a lot of assumptions made about non-European contemporary dance. So Fernando, can you share a little bit about your experience in coming up against those assumptions about Cuban dance in America in particular?
Right. So I have to say that there is nothing wrong about the tradition. There is nothing wrong about even the cliche of what the Cubanness should be all about. All the due respect to that, but it is very important to understand, coming back to a previous answer, that the Cuban dance and the Cuban contemporary dance is very diverse, and we do not represent exactly the tradition in the cliche-like way. So we are a dance company, as some other dance companies in Cuba, contemporary dance companies in Cuba, that are trying to assimilate this tradition. Where do we come from? And we try to project that into the future. We try to understand who we are here and now, using, of course, digesting, of course, this tradition. But our responsibility as contemporary citizens, as contemporary artists, is to ask ourselves who we are. And in that sense, once again, the tradition is remarkable, is an impressive and very important tool, but in our case, it's not enough. So in a very simple way, this is a conversation between the old and the new. And the new should prevail. We want to imagine and to invent who we are. We want to imagine what the future of this nation and our dance and our culture will be all about. So it is great for audiences. However, we know that it is very hard to change this perception, to be open and flexible, to assimilate and to understand what is the new, how we are struggling and fighting on a daily basis about understanding ourselves. And that would be a good way to promote what most of the Cuban dance companies are doing nowadays. So let's forget a little bit about those expressions of our dance tradition, and let's try to assimilate and to, in a flexible way, to connect ourselves to what these people are proposing, mostly young people, young dancers.
I'm wondering for Narciso, if when you arrived in Japan, you ran into sort of similar expectations or assumptions about what your work would be like because of where you come from.
Narciso, la pregunta es, cuando llegaste al Japón, ¿habían ciertas expectativas del cliché, ¿no?, de la danza cubana? ¿O encontraste otra expectativa?
Mira, en Japón existe no solamente el trabajo que yo hago de danza contemporánea, también hay otros maestros de folclore, maestros de folclórico nacional, incluso han venido muchísimos maestros, el público japonés conoce, los alumnos japoneses conocen la danza folclórica cubana, conocen la música, los bailes tradicionales cubanos, porque han tenido maestros que han venido desde Cuba a enseñar esa danza, los japoneses también han ido a Cuba. Es decir, que esa parte de la danza cubana es bien conocida por una parte del público japonés. Yo lo que traje fue específicamente mi trabajo de danza contemporánea, como algo diferente a lo que ya existía cuando yo llegué.
So for him, what he encountered when he arrived in Japan was actually the Japanese dance students and the dance community really know Cuban traditional dance, folkloric dance even, because they're very, the tradition is well known. There are choreographers and teachers who go and teach this in Japan. So he didn't bring anything that was unusual, that part. What he brought to Japan when he came was his own version of Cuban contemporary dance.
Cuando yo llegué a Japón ya había una parte de las personas que le interesa la danza contemporánea que ya conocían mi trabajo, tanto porque habían ido a Cuba anteriormente que yo viniera y también porque, bueno, yo había presentado también mi obra aquí en Japón, es decir, que ya conocían mi trabajo y cuando vieron que yo llegué, el maestro Narciso está aquí, fueron a ese encuentro, es decir, con la danza cubana a través de, bueno, de mi enseñanza y de mis presentaciones.
When he arrived in Japan to establish his company, he was already well known. People knew him, people knew his style of Cuban contemporary dance. So when he arrived, people wanted to meet him as a master in his own work, in his own right, and work with him. So the expectation was that he would bring what he'd already presented and people knew.
There's a question in the chat that's directed to Fernando, but I think I'll actually give it to Osnel, which is, what is the connection of African dance and contemporary Cuban dance? How does that connection appear inside of the rehearsal process and when creating?
Well, I think the Cuban culture of modern dance is also dance blend between some Afro-Cuban movements and styles. We also incorporate like folkloric patterns during that training, and it's part of our background that we learn in our school. But in the contemporary dance, as we are talking about, we try to incorporate new languages as well to our repertoire. We work with different choreographers. So I think that they use a lot of this material and we use it as well, but it's not about a specific type of dance. It's not about something that we know. It's about create something new. So I think that we transform that in a different way, in a different perception to use what the Cubanness is about, or what the rhythms that we know is about. We elaborate like a new things about that. The interesting is that we never are going to forget that. We never are going to separate ourselves of our roots and our backgrounds. We use it as much as we can, but it's about to do in a different way, let's say. Yeah.
Another one that came in the chat for Dile, sort of a practical question about the life of a dancer in Cuba, the schooling process, and then how you go on from school into joining one of these companies, for you starting with Danza Contemporanea.
La educación general en Cuba es subsidiada por el Estado, tanto la regular como la artística.
So in Cuba, the education, both artistically and academically, is subsidized by the government.
Entonces todos los alumnos tienen la posibilidad de entrar en la escuela si tienen el talento.
So if you have the talent, you can become a student. It's based on talent first.
Todo el mundo tiene como los mismos derechos. Lo único que lo hace diferente es el talento.
So everybody has the same right to audition or to, try to get into the school. The difference is the talent. They only take the best.
Nosotros tenemos en casi todos los municipios de las provincias casas de cultura, que son lugares que se dedican a desarrollar a los muchachos en el mundo de las artes, ya sea artes plásticas o artes escénicas.
So in all the municipalities in Cuba, there is a directive to develop young talent, whether it's artistic talent, plastic arts, dance, music, whatever it is. So there's a directive to foster that.
En cada cabecera provincial hay una escuela de arte que se llama Escuela Vocacional de Arte. Ahí es donde se entra, en el caso de los bailarines, a la edad de 10 años.
So
9, 10.
There's a vocational school in each one of these municipalities where you enter at the age of 9 or 10.
Luego tú pasas 5 años en esta escuela elemental de arte y cuando terminas de estos 5 años te sometes a una prueba para entrar a un nivel superior que sería la Escuela Nacional.
So you spend 5 years training, and after 5 years you have the right to audition for a place in the national school at the national level.
Luego son 3 años más y el total son 8 años. Cuando te gradúas, terminas con una carrera de bailarín y profesor. Puedes ejercer tanto para bailar como para impartir clases.
So after the 3 years at the national level, you graduate and you're actually able to teach dance and also dance.
Durante estos 8 años nos sometemos a test, o sea, a pruebas anuales, y quizás si empezamos 20 bailarines, terminamos 2 o 3, ¿sabes? No son tantos bailarines los que se gradúan siempre.
Yeah, so during all these years, every year, they are asked to audition and test throughout this time, and so the number starts to pare down, and there are less and less enrolled as as it thins out.
En el mundo del arte en general y en el de la danza particularmente, todos sabemos cuán difícil es y costosa nuestra carrera, no solamente en el caso de las bailarinas clásicas, zapatillas de punta, sino todas las otras cosas que incluyen durante 8 años tener que tener todo lo necesario para tener una carrera, cosas que hacen falta.
Yeah, so the state really does take care of providing all of the things that you might need to be a dancer, which, could be very costly, toe shoes, for example, those kinds of things. So, that's something that's taken care of.
Aquí volvemos a un poco a lo que estábamos hablando antes, de la fuerza del cubano, de sobreponerse a cualquier obstáculo. Y realmente no podemos tener queja de ningún bailarín, que cuando llegamos a las compañías somos no solamente disciplinados, sino demasiado tenaces.
So this goes back to the perseverance and the nature of Cubans, where, you know, no challenge is big enough. They've got it. And that shows in the tenacity and hard work that they bring to the companies when they become dancers.
En este caso, no porque nos haya costado dinero la carrera y tengamos que luchar por un puesto quizás en una compañía profesional, sino porque nos ha costado mucho esfuerzo personal y sí, mucho esfuerzo.
So in this case, it's not because the career or the education has been costly, but the energy and the drive to succeed is what's really cost them, and what really they bring to the table.
So, yes.
Go ahead. So I think, Ross, you might want to give us some final thoughts on this wonderful panel. I want to thank everyone. It's been fantastic.
Remind them that tomorrow we have the second part of our Cuban Contemporary Dance, Here and Now. So it's the same link. Do not forget that. And also just want to say that because of these two panel discussions, we are now in talks with the two dance companies to do master classes with our community partners. So Thank you very much. And we'll keep you also informed about that too. So Ross, go back to you.
Yes.
Great. I'll just say again, thank you to the panelists and to Copperbridge and all of you here for joining us. For me, honestly, just being able to listen to your responses, I learned a ton, and I hope that you all did as well. I think Dile, ending on that note about the tenacity and the passion that you all down there have for this art form is really an important point, especially now of all times. So with that, I'll sign off and say thank you all, and we'll see you back tomorrow night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much, Narciso.
Thank you, gracias, thank you.
Osnel,
Gracias.
Fernando, Beth, Ever.
Thanks, everybody.
Gracias.
Michelle.
Gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias,
Thank you,
Malpaso.
everyone. Have a great night. Thank you. See you tomorrow.